Die where you stand.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and the finale in our Time Crisis retrospective that I'm calling Crisis Center. We've moved on to Time Crisis 5, and that is the last game in the series as of the making of this video. But the great thing is the Namco team on Time Crisis went out with an absolute bang, pun very much intended, giving us even more Wild Dog and even Wild Fang than we got in the previous 4 games combined. And this is just another outstanding light gun shooter that is absolutely worth your time to play. It's over-the-top action in the best way possible. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But Time Crisis 5 continues the over-the-top action and weird, almost comical slapstick storylines that we've been getting basically since Time Crisis 4 and on. This is just over-the-top arcade fun, and it takes that overall cover mechanic and expands upon it, giving us more than one way to turn and more than one way to attack every single enemy, and that's going to become a very big thing. You even get some awesome bullet time set pieces where you need to avoid certain enemies coming towards you, or helicopters in this instance, and then you get a free bullet time sequence with unlimited ammo. This is just an absolute amazing game, and oddly it's the only arcade game in the franchise never to get a home port, at least to the recording of this video. Sadly, you do need to find an arcade cabinet for this one or play it on PC, because I'm surprised this didn't get a port to something like PlayStation 4 on PSVR. Honestly, VR is the new forefront of arcade light gun gaming, and I think this game should have come over, and I'm bummed out that it didn't. But the great thing is it's easy to play and so worth it. And you'll see here as I move from left and right into cover, it is going to be a very big mechanic for this series and really does expand upon what we've seen in previous games. Sometimes enemies are going to throw smoke grenades at you and you need to pivot around. Other times you're going to have an enemy that cannot be hit from one cover and you need to move to the other to find a vulnerability. But honestly, the first 2/3 of this game, it's just all about Wild Dog and his companion Wild Fang, and it is just so much funnier than it ever has been before. And with this gigantic mech here, you're really getting some Raising Storm vibes in the mix as well, almost like maybe they borrowed a few models from Raising Storm and reworked them for something like Time Crisis 5. But the set pieces here are bigger, the action's more intense, the storylines are more comical. It is just a combination of everything Time Crisis is working up towards, with both incredible shooting mechanics as well as just over-the-top weirdness. And I still love that all the characters in this game apparently are just humans, but they can jump 30 feet into the air and they can take 100-foot falls and be totally fine. I'm not sure what's going on in the universe of Time Crisis, but honestly, considering Wild Dog has blown himself up 4 times and survived, it does make sense. And I love the tongue-in-cheek nature here. You think Wild Dog is going to blow himself up, but he actually takes off with a rocket jetpack. That was just one of those things. The first time I saw the game, I thought this where Wild Dog was going to explode, and I was waiting for it, but the developers took kind of what's become a meme at this point in time and replayed it in our expectations to give us something slightly different. And just like Raising Storm that came before it, Time Crisis 5 is just going to go over the top with the set pieces and helicopters as well. I absolutely love this train battle here, and so many of the Time Crisis games have a train battle, but this for my money is definitely the best. You're flying around left and right, swooping in and out, almost feels like Gunblade New York or LA Machine Guns, as I mentioned in the Time Crisis 4 video as well. And you can definitely just feel the Sega inspiration through and through, but in a very good way. It's not like Time Crisis and the developers at Namco are trying to copy Sega. They're just taking what they love and making it in the Time Crisis universe, and it just 100% works. And I love this walkway battle here, Wild Dog running to the end where we have all of his enemies shooting missiles at us all at the same time. It is just filling the screen with something to do every single second, and the best part is this game is near perfectly balanced for a single player experience. You can cover the entire screen and you can perform well. It's not the type of game that you have to bring a second player for, but of course it's going to get a lot more fun. And we even get this unlimited rocket sequence right here. And what type of game would it be if we didn't have a motorcycle battle down a highway where we're jumping these motorcycles and having a full gunfight on the back of them? This is one of my favorite levels in the game. It's one of my favorite set pieces from any Time Crisis game in the entire franchise. It just works. It's so much fun to play, and when you're shooting well, that sensation of being basically invincible just 100% sells itself. But it's soundtrack sample time, so go ahead and listen. I'll be right back with a lot more Wild Dog to enjoy. Love the soundtrack, love the sound effects, and I will give you a voice acting sample later on in the video. But I love this little culvert sequence here again, going in and out of the steam. You can move your bike from left to right with the cover mechanic and basically drive around within the game. And it really does feel like they took the cover mechanic to its logical conclusion, basically treating this a little bit like a puzzle game, trying to find the right angles to shoot at. But I told you were going to get more Wild Dog, and here he is. And like every single game where he dies and comes back the next game, he has a more powerful arm. Basically the gravity gun from Half-Life, except here on Wild Dog. You saw it in Time Crisis 4, but here it's going to be more powerful, and it's just going to be that much more impressive. Now this fight ever so slightly does feel like the same boss fight from Time Crisis 4 as far as the concept is concerned. That's not to say it's not a fun boss fight, but if you just recently played Time Crisis 4, this is going to feel familiar, so maybe this might be a slight low point in what otherwise is an awesome game. But the nice thing is it is challenging, and having to move your vehicle around left to right undercover to try to actually get an open shot at Wild Dog really does add extra mechanic to the game. And of course you defeat Wild Dog. He's never the big boss in any Time Crisis game, even though he feels like he should be. And he has one more arm upgrade to show you before he dies. That's right, he has a rocket punch, and he's going to shoot that briefcase somewhere else for it to be picked up. It is absolutely hilarious. You did not see it coming, but of course you've been watching the franchise in this series, you know what's coming next. Wild Dog gets his detonator and he blows up one more time. And it is straight over the top Rambo style 80s action fun when he does blow up. And I love that developers at Namco also decided to slow the game down with a longer sniper sequence this time. In Time Crisis 4 we had to shoot a few wheels out, and in Raising Storm we got a really nice sniper sequence when we're trying to charge up a laser to break down a building. And here in Time Crisis 5 you probably get the longest sniper segment the entire time. You have to get headshots, you do have a timer, and when you're playing this game well and you're getting all of those headshots, it feels awesome. And because you've basically just been unloading clip after clip on your opponents, getting a different type of play style really is fun. It makes me wish that Namco would make something like a Silent Scope, except on their own arcade hardware and in their own genre. Give me Time Crisis the Sniper Edition. I would go to the arcades and dump at least $15 to $20 in there just to get a sensation of it. And just like every other Time Crisis game, of course there's going to be a factory or some sort of other warehouse, and this is where the cover mechanic really comes into play. There's so many things moving around, you have to be going left and right almost the entire time to actually find a trajectory to shoot your opponents, or else you're going to be running out of time. And of course the name of the game is Time Crisis, you run out of time and you take a death. I would say that this game is very fair. I am playing it on normal difficulty, and I don't really feel like the challenge is too far over the top. Definitely a game that you could 1cc if you practice more, but getting an understanding of how the cover works and really being able to pivot around in the levels is where you actually get better at this game. Because if you don't move quick enough, you're going to get hit, and then you're going to take that continue. And just like every other Time Crisis game, the red enemy should always be your priority when they pop up. And I love that that design language has taken its way all the way through the entirety of this franchise. They teach you that in the first Time Crisis game, red is the most dangerous, and they use that throughout the entire franchise. And just like a lot of the other warnings that we get in the entire Time Crisis franchise, again here again with these laser beams coming over the top, ready to basically tear you in two. And that again is just another fun set piece in a game that is absolutely just filled with set piece over set piece after set piece. And of course we get a boss battle with who we think might be a bad guy, who actually turns out to be a good guy. And I always love that twist, even though it's telegraphed, you can see it a mile away. You actually think you find out who the big bad is in the game, and it's totally going to turn that on its head. There is a red herring in pretty much every Time Crisis game somewhere. And just like games that came before it, stuff like Crisis Zone, you're going to have to shoot the boss here while he basically has a 1 versus 1 fight. Kind of feels a little bit like the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4, and the end of this actual game feels like it's cribbed completely from Metal Gear Solid 4 in some very fun and different ways. But again, this shooting mechanic, having to deal with all the cover, having to pivot left and right and try to pick off your shots so that you hit the boss but not what you think is your friend, is just an absolute ton of fun. This is why I love Lycan games so much. When you're playing them well, you feel like it's up to you to save the world. Your accuracy, your aim, everything you're doing is dependent upon your skill level. When you're executing at a high level and you're hitting all your shots and your accuracy is good, you feel like a plastic gun action movie hero in all of the best ways. And I even love that the destructibility from Crisis Zone and Raising Storm has come back here as well. But now is your sample of the voice acting, because it's over the top cheesy in all of the best ways that you want out of a Time Crisis game. But don't go too far, because Wild Dog's best friend Wild Fang is about to appear, and we even get some zombies in the game. So enjoy, and I'll be right back.
Take a look at this. This is the data Christie left behind in the case about the traitor.
What? No way!
Robert?
If you had just died, this would have all gone according to plan.
Robert, you were the traitor! What, were you planning to kill us all?
I would love to, but I'm in a bit of a hurry.
Robert!
Yeah, real shocker that Robert was the bad guy all along. They didn't telegraph that, because anyone wearing a snakeskin dress shirt is gotta be bad in some way, shape, or form. And for the first time, Time Crisis finally touches on their version of zombies. There is a drug in the game that the big bad villain is trying to shoot to New York City on a rocket that turns people into brainless monsters. And it really makes me wonder if Time Crisis was ever going to go a horror route. If there was ever any plans at Namco to make something like a Time Crisis game, except set it with zombies and monsters and give it that House of the Dead flair. Because I really always thought that they would go in that direction, but at this point in time they never have. Sure, they have Deadstorm Pirates, which kind of feels like a horror spin-off of the Time Crisis franchise, but it isn't in the same series, so it never really felt like it counted. And again, you'll see here the improbability of all of the characters in this game to be able to withstand absolutely everything, because Robert here is going to blow off a bomb, he's going to sink this platform, and you're going to see all three of the characters fall to what you would assume were their deaths. But as soon as the screen fades back from black, you're going to see they landed and they're totally fine. And that's something that started in the first game, where Robert Miller fell off the clock tower and somehow was able to survive even though he was like 50 feet in the air. But it is Wild Fang time. Wild Dog's son, I do not know, they never really tell you, and it is absolutely, again, just an over-the-top, ridiculous fight. Kind of feels like something like the intro to a WWE Royal Rumble match, but again, it works, and the cover mechanics here are great as well, because you need to track where Wild Fang is going. You need to move around the entire arena, or else you're not going to have a good shot at him. And again, that's fun when you're stomping on the foot pedals with your feet to be able to do this. And just so you know, I did play this on Technoparrot, but I do have two USB pedals I use to be able to stomp left and right to give myself that same interactability. It is definitely worth picking them up. You can grab them on Amazon for like $15, and if I remember, I will leave a link in the description below to the ones I use, because it is great fun. And of course, just like Wild Dog, he has to do something extra ridiculous here. Kind of feels like Elton John and an eagle put together, but suddenly these peacock style feathers come out and he's trying to charge something up, and you need to shoot him before that happens, or else you're going to have a bad time. And I just love, again, all the cutscenes in this game, all the voice acting, all the high strangeness, the fact that zombies make an appearance. Nothing in this story makes any sense whatsoever, but you really don't care, because the entire time you were playing it, you were just absolutely having fun with it. And that's what really matters. A good light gun game basically makes you want to continue to sit there and play it, and when the credits scroll, you feel like you've had an absolutely satisfying experience. And Time Crisis 5 is firing on all of its cylinders when it comes to fun. And of course, just like Wild Dog, Wild Fang just can't fall over and die. He has to go out in a literal blaze of glory here with that gigantic fireball above him. The glasses, the clothing in this game, the tattoos, the hair, they are hilarious in all of the best tongue-in-cheek ways possible. And I'm going to give you one more sound sample, because it does take some sound cues from the original Time Crisis soundtrack. Go ahead and listen for 30 seconds, I'll come back and show you the final boss fight.
Take this!
Hey, what's wrong?
Machine gun.
Shoot Robert!
I love that they took the music from the first Time Crisis, remixed it a little bit, made it a little bit more dramatic, and put it in the final boss fight for Time Crisis 5. Almost like the developers thought maybe this was going to be the last Time Crisis game they ever made, and they wanted to go out on a literal bang, in this instance, pun very much intended. But that's the thing about Time Crisis 5, it shows that they still have life in the Time Crisis series, and it really makes me want to have another game. There's no news yet if we're ever going to see a Time Crisis 6, it might be something that never happens, but I do hope that we're not done with this franchise because it is one of my favorites of all time, and the fact is it's been around basically my entire gaming life. First game came out in 1995, this one came out some years ago, but here it is 2024, I'm still playing these games, I'm still loving them, and I've made an entire retrospective that you guys have watched based on the Time Crisis series, and I just hope that we see a Time Crisis 6 one day because I'm not done with Wild Dog quite yet in my life. And you'll see here the final boss battle is almost like a quick time event in a really fun dramatic way. Think of the versus fight at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 and just turn that into a light gun mechanic. That is what you were getting here. You need to shoot the bullets coming towards you, and then you need to shoot your opponent in front of you as well to watch him take a Hans Gruber off the Nakatomi Tower, except in this instance into the ocean. And that is Time Crisis 5. Like every other game that came before, it's a metric ton of fun. It's over the top, it's cheesy, it's filled with explosions, and it has some of the best light gun shooting mechanics of any arcade game you've ever played. The only difference is here you're not going to be riding off into the sunset on a helicopter, you're going to be swimming off in the sunset, and that is a slight change compared to everything that basically happens in every single game. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, have you ever played Time Crisis 5 before? And if not, do you plan on playing it after this video? Because trust me, every single mainline Time Crisis game is worth playing. Raising Storm is also worth playing, and Crisis Zone, I would take it or leave it depending on the day of the week you ask me about it. But this, again, is just classic Time Crisis, classic Namco, showing just how good they were in arcades when it came to developing these type of games. And it's been so much fun to do this entire retrospective, talk about the franchise and have a good time. And if you're wondering why I didn't cover Project Titan, that game was not developed by Namco, it was a third party, and honestly it doesn't really feel like part of the franchise to me. But short of that, the Time Crisis retrospective, Crisis Center, is done. We've talked about the entire series, and hopefully one day I can add a video for Time Crisis 6. But short of that, we're swimming off into the sunset. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.